Live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman Television, here we present to you tonight's news bulletin. But first, the headlines. The COVID-19 Supreme Committee decides to end the lockdown on commercial activities and ban the movement of individuals and vehicles starting from Saturday evening. The COVID-19 Supreme Committee adopts the role of vaccination as a condition for allowing entry to all government units and private sector establishments, and people entering the Sultanates are required to receive 2 doses of the approved vaccines in the Sultanate starting from the 1st of September. And a number of members of the COVID-19 Supreme Committee oversees the vaccination process for targeted people in the Sultan Qaboos Youth Complex for Culture and Recreational in the Wilaya of Salalah. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a cabal of greetings to His Excellency President Dr. Janusz Ader of Hungary on his country's National Day. His Majesty the Sultan also received a cabal of thanks from His Excellency President Abdul Majid Tebboune of Algeria in reply to a cabal of condolences sent by His Majesty the Sultan on the victims of the fires that erupted in several Algerian states. Within the framework of the royal directives of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq to take appropriate measures to deal with the pandemic in the coming period to ensure public health as well as business continuity in all government units and private sectors establishments, the COVID-19 Supreme Committee held a meeting in the Wilaya of Salalah this morning. The meeting was chaired by His Excellency Sayyid Hamoud bin Faisal Al Busaidi, Minister of Interior, in the presence of their Excellencies, the members of the committee. The committee decides to end the decision to close down commercial activities and ban the movement of the individuals and vehicles starting on the evening on Saturday, August 21st, 2021. The committee also decided to adopt a general framework for operating schools in the Sultanate during the academic year 2021-2022, according to the mechanisms that will be announced by the Ministry of Education, while emphasizing the need to adhere to the implementation of all precautionary measures mentioned in the health protocol in a manner that preserve the safety of male and female students and members of the teaching and administrative staff. This is evaluated in line with the developments in the epidemiological situation in the Sultanate. The Supreme Committee also took the following 2 decisions, which will take effect on Wednesday, September 1st, 2021. 1. Adopting the rule of vaccination as a condition for allowing entry to all government units and private sector establishments, including malls, restaurants and other commercial activities, as well as attending cultural, sports and other group events. Heads of governments and private units must take necessary measures to implement these controls. Those who enter the Sultanate from all land, sea and airports are required to receive 2 doses of the approved vaccines in the Sultanate for those who are 18 years and above, and to undergo a PCR test for the coronavirus before or upon arrival in the Sultanate, and to adhere to quarantine for a period of 7 days with a re-examination on the 8th day of those who were confirmed to have the disease. Their Excellencies, the members of the COVID-19 Supreme Committee, headed by His Excellency Sayyid Hamoud bin Faisal Al Busaidi, Minister of Interior, visited the Sultan Qaboos Youth Complex for Culture and Recreational in the Wilaya of Salalah to oversee the vaccination process as part of the national vaccination campaign. Members of the Supreme Committee were briefed on the procedures followed in the center, starting from registration until receiving the vaccine, as well as reception of people while observing the preventive measures. Their Excellencies, the members of the Supreme Committee, were pleased by the level of coordination and the turnout from citizens and expatriates. His Excellency Sayyid Mohammed bin Sultan Al Busaidi, Minister of State and Governor of the FAR, called upon all individuals targeted by the national vaccination program to take the vaccine as soon as possible to protect themselves, their families and their community from this disease. His Excellency added that people must not heed to rumors pointing out that many individuals lost their family members because of rumors. His Excellency pointed out that there are many vaccination centers in the governorate from which a person can acquire the vaccine, and that the whole vaccination process does not take a lot of time. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health reported 7 deaths, 186 new COVID-19 cases and 320 recoveries. The ministry also reported that the total number of COVID-19 cases registered in the Sultanate reached 300,914, while the total number of deaths reached 4,020. The total recovered cases reached 289,450. The ministry indicated that the total number of inpatients during last 24 hours reached 20, bringing the total number of 296, of which 86 are in intensive care units around healthcare institutions in the country. Still to come in our news bulletin. Al-Jabal Al-Akhdar is renowned for the cultivation of pomegranate, and the harvest season is here. And now for the international news. Russia's foreign minister today reiterated a call for a broad dialogue between all political forces in Afghanistan, noting that the Taliban does not control the entire territory of Afghanistan. Speaking at a news conference in Moscow, Sergei Lavrov pointed to reporters about the situation in the Panjshir Valley, where the resistance forces of Afghan Vice President Amrullah Saleh and Ahmad Massoud have accumulated. He said that it makes Moscow stance on the necessity of dialogue between all rival forces and groups even firmer. Moscow, which fought a 10-year war in Afghanistan that ended with Soviet troops' withdrawal in 1989, has made a diplomatic comeback as a mediator, reaching out the feuding Afghan factions and cultivating ties with the Taliban, as it has jockeyed with the US for influence in the country. Besides that, Lavrov commented on the readiness of Russia to take part in the withdrawal of foreign troops from the territory of Libya. Taliban fighters patrolled Kabul today, with a commander among them pledging to bring security to Afghanistan. Jihad Yar, a Taliban commander who greeted locals on the street in Kabul, said a large number of people and residents of Kabul are not afraid of them anymore. But in other parts of Kabul, Afghan protesters were defying the Taliban for a second day, waving their national flag. The scattered demonstrations today were met with renewed violence by the Taliban, who are facing growing challenges to their rule. United Nations officials warned of dire food shortages in the nation of 38 million people reliant on imports. The Taliban face the same problems as the civilian governments they dethroned without the level of international aid it enjoyed. Hundreds of Greek and Polish firefighters were battling a major wildfire, decimating a pine forest for a fourth day today northwest of the Greek capital. The fire near the village of Vilia, about 60 kilometers from Athens, has already burned through thousands of hectares and led to evacuation orders for several villages in the area. Strong winds forecast for today could complicate firefighting efforts. The fire department said 427 firefighters, including 143 from Poland, along with 149 vehicles, were battling the flames. 5 water-dropping planes and 5 helicopters were providing air support, while the army sent personnel and machinery. The Vilia blaze is the latest of hundreds of wildfires that have burned across Greece this month, fueled by heat wave that purged, scrubbed and forested the country most severe in about 3 decades. Once again, back here in the Sultanate, from Tyler to restaurants, cafes, shops and all other workers have been facilitated to get their vaccine against COVID-19. More details coming up in this report. To protect the health and safety of workers at various business activities such as restaurant, coffee shops, tailor shops and other areas, the vaccination campaign against COVID-19 has been in full swing, covering a large number of this category of expatriate workers, all of whom have been getting shots in a specific allocated area free of cost.
Well, it's great to see this huge number of non-skilled laborers who responded to the call of Ministry of Health, where the cards were distributed by the municipality, and here is the process is going on. It's important to highlight that the campaign continues tomorrow in Qaryat Wilayat and on Sunday and Monday on Sip Wilayat.
I'm a Tanzanian guy working here in Oman. I'm here to receive the vaccine, which is free, and we thank the government of Oman for this opportunity, because the vaccine is a benefit for our healthy and the benefit of the full community.
The Ministry of Health works in collaboration with other organizations in the country to make sure large number of this segment of society do receive their vaccines.
मैं बहुत ज़्यादा खुश हूँ कि मुझे ओमान के अंदर फ्री वैक्सीन मिल रही है. आल्सो पूरा इंडियन को, ओमानी को, पाकिस्तानी को, बांग्लादेशी को, सबको फ्री वैक्सीन मिल रही है. अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. Thank you so much for Oman.
It's worth mentioning that the campaign continues for all others through self-registration, which is mandatory for vaccination and is available for users through the Ministry of Health Tarassud app.
Let's beat coronavirus.
Let's beat coronavirus. Let's all take precautionary measures. Get vaccine.
Indeed, let's beat coronavirus by taking all the precautionary measures and, of course, vaccine. In the governorate of Muscat, the national vaccination campaign continues to target workers in commercial activities in multiple vaccination centers throughout the wilayas of the governorate. The campaign targets those who are in direct contact with customers, such as workers in restaurants, barbers and tailors and others. The process starts with entering the ID card number of expatriate worker targeted to be vaccinated in the system to display his details on Tarassud Plus application. Then he moves to get the dose of vaccine safely. Meanwhile, in Buremi Hospital, the number of COVID-19 patients admitted to the intensive care unit has fallen drastically. None of them are on ventilators. The 3 COVID-19 cases are being admitted to the hospitals with stable conditions. Meanwhile, the national vaccination campaign is working tirelessly to vaccinate targeted categories amid good turnout from members of the society. The number of people in the governorate of Al-Buremi who took the vaccine has been increasing due to awareness among all segments of the society. Al-Jabal Al-Akhdar is renowned for the cultivation of various fruit crops, or one of which is pomegranate. The following report sheds light on this year's pomegranate harvest season.
The period from mid-August until the end of October every year represents a remarkable occasion for people of Al-Jabal Al-Akhdar as they harvest the pomegranate fruits. Let's find out about this year's harvest.
Al-Jabal Al-Akhdar has received a decent amount of rainfall recently,
allowing pomegranate trees to bear fruits in abundance. Across the orchards, these branches are bending low under their heavy load of ripening pomegranates, which dangle, indicating a promising harvest season.
In fact, this season is good, praise be to Allah. Before Ramadan, we had a drought, but after that period it rained. The amount of rainfall contributed to better crops and reducing insects that affect pomegranate fruit. So the yield this year is promising.
More than 27,000 pomegranate trees stretch over vast areas of Al Jabal Al Akhdar villages. The farmers flock to the pomegranate plantations early in the morning to collect the fruits.
Pomegranate types include the hard-seeded and the sweet. Cultivation of a pomegranate tree requires a lot of effort. If you take care of the tree and give it adequate care, plowing, fertilization, and irrigation, it will bear fruit within 3 years. Some pomegranate trees used to produce about 500 pomegranates per tree at a time.
Due to their high nutritional value and special quality, Al Jabal Al Akhdar pomegranates are sought after by residents and visitors from inside and outside the Sultanate. From Al Jabal Al Akhdar, Salih Bukhalfan Al Rahbi, Al Dakhiliya, Governorate.
You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and now, before we end this news bulletin, here are the main points once again. The COVID-19 Supreme Committee decides to end the lockdown on commercial activities and ban the movement of individuals and vehicles starting from Saturday evening. COVID-19 Supreme Committee adopts the rule of vaccination as a condition for allowing entry to all government units and private sector establishments, and people entering the Sultanate are required to receive the doses of the approval vaccines in the Sultanate starting from the 1st of September. And a number of members of the COVID-19 Supreme Committee oversee the vaccination process for the targeted people in the Sultan Qaboos Youth Complex for Culture and Recreation in the Wilaya of Salala. COVID-19 vaccines offer hope. Other prevention measures must continue to be safe and healthy. So be a champion on all preventive measures. With that, we do conclude this news bulletin. Thank you for joining us, and good night.